Imagine this. It's the middle of the night and you're jolted awake by a phone call. On the other end, a voice trembles as it delivers news that shakes you to your core.
With the mood swings and she's trying to cope herself, so we're not okay. We're trying to be, but we're not okay.
Someone you know, someone young, vibrant, full of life, is gone. Not just gone, murdered. In an instant, everything changes. That's exactly what happened to the family of 26-year-old Chassidy Sparkman on Valentine's Day 2024. A day meant for love flowers, and promises whispered between two people turned into a nightmare no one could have imagined. This is the tragic story of Chassidy Sparkman, a loving mother of two whose life was brutally cut short in a Sacramento parking lot. She wasn't supposed to die that night. She should have been home with her kids, dreaming about the future, building a better life. Instead, she became the victim of a crime so senseless, so devastating, that it left her family shattered and a community searching for answers. Today, we'll uncover what happened, explore the investigation, and seek clarity in a case filled with heartbreak, betrayal, and unanswered questions. And let me tell you something. This is the only place where you'll get every single detail, the kind of stuff that doesn't make it to the headlines or the evening news. So stick around, because if you want to truly understand what happened that night, you're in the right spot. I'll be down in the comments after you've watched, ready to hear your thoughts, answer your questions, and dive even deeper into the story with you. Welcome to Fatal Fame, where all our stories are based on true crimes. Please support us by subscribing to this channel and clicking the notification bell icon so you don't miss any of our latest stories. Hey there, welcome back. If you're just joining us, take a moment to grab that coffee or tea, because this story deserves your full attention. Chassidy Sparkman wasn't just another name in the news. She was someone's daughter, someone's sister, someone's mom, and to those who knew her best, she was unforgettable. Let's take a closer look at who she was before her life was tragically cut short. Chassidy wasn't rich or famous, but to her two young children, a 6-year-old son and an 8-year-old daughter, she was their whole world. Every morning, they woke up knowing Mom would be there, making breakfast, tying their shoes, cheering them on through school projects, silly dances, or even just listening when they needed to talk. She worked tirelessly, juggling motherhood with big dreams for the future. By day, she was a dedicated student at Sacramento City College, studying psychology because she wanted to help others. By night, she ran her own small business selling hair and lashes, determined to build a better life for her kids. Chassidy wasn't just surviving. She was thriving, creating opportunities out of challenges and always looking ahead. But let's rewind a bit further. Chassidy came from a big family, one of 20 siblings. Growing up, money wasn't always plentiful, and life certainly had its share of struggles. But what stood out about Chassidy was how deeply she loved and how freely she gave. Her brothers and sisters weren't just relatives, they were her safe place. No matter what was going on in her life, no matter how hard things got, she never shut them out. Even when she was hurting, even when she was hiding things she didn't want them to worry about, Chassidy made sure her family felt supported. That's the kind of person she was. Selfless, loyal, and endlessly compassionate. And then there's her legacy. Chassidy dreamed of becoming a psychologist, not for fame or fortune, but because she genuinely believed in second chances. She forgave quickly, extended grace generously, and saw potential in people, even when they couldn't see it themselves. These qualities didn't just define her, they made her a beacon of light to everyone lucky enough to know her. To her kids, she was a superhero. To her siblings, she was a rock. And to her community, she was proof that kindness can change lives. Now, here's where I need you to weigh in. What do you think drives someone like Chassidy? How does a person keep pushing forward despite all the obstacles life throws their way? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'll be down there later responding to every single one of them. Because honestly, understanding Chassidy isn't just about honoring her memory. It's about learning from the strength she showed every single day. Stay with me as we dive deeper into the events leading up to that fateful night. All right, let's step into the moment when everything changed, when a quiet parking lot became the stage for an unimaginable tragedy. If you've been following along so far, you know that Chassidy Sparkman wasn't just another name in the news. She was someone who mattered deeply to those around her. And now we're about to walk through the events of that fateful night, the night her life was taken. It's February 14, 2024, around 11:15 p.m., and the Lake Crest Village shopping center in Sacramento is mostly quiet. The hum of cars pulling in and out of the lot blends with the faint glow of streetlights reflecting off storefront windows. It's Valentine's Day, a day meant for love, laughter, and connection. But for Chassidy, this would be the last chapter of her story. What should have been a peaceful evening turned into something no one could have predicted. A scene of violence, chaos, and heartbreak. Chassidy had agreed to meet Isaiah James, her estranged husband, that night. From what we know, it was supposed to be a reconciliation meeting. A chance to talk things through, maybe find some common ground, or even begin healing old wounds. But here's where things get complicated. Isaiah didn't come alone. He brought Ayana Burgos, his new girlfriend, with him. Imagine that, a man showing up to reconcile with his wife while bringing another woman into the mix. It sounds like the setup for a disaster, doesn't it? And unfortunately, that's exactly what happened. The details are still coming together, but investigators believe an argument broke out between Chassidy and Isaiah. Words were exchanged, tensions flared, and then came the sound that changes everything. In an instant, the night went from tense to catastrophic. Witnesses reported hearing the shot ring out, followed by silence. Chaos erupted as people realized what had happened. Paramedics were called, and within minutes they were rushing to Chassidy's side. She had sustained a life-threatening gunshot wound, and despite their best efforts, there was nothing they could do. Chassidy fought hard, but ultimately, she succumbed to her injuries shortly after arriving at the hospital. Think about that for a second, the sheer weight of it. One moment, she's alive, trying to navigate a difficult situation, hoping for resolution. The next, she's gone, just like that. Her two young children, ages 6 and 8, would never hear their mother's voice again. Her siblings, who leaned on her as much as she leaned on them, lost their safe place. Her father, Alonso, lost a piece of himself he says he'll never get back. A family shattered, all because of one irreversible act of violence. Does this scenario raise questions for you? What does it say about the dynamics between these three individuals, Chassidy, Isaiah, and Ayana, that such a volatile situation unfolded? Was this avoidable, or was it inevitable given the history between them? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'll be down there later responding to every single one of them. This isn't just a story. It's a puzzle, and your perspective might help us understand it better. Stick around as we dive deeper into the investigation and uncover how law enforcement worked tirelessly to bring justice for Chassidy. All right, let's dive into the investigation. The part of the story where every clue matters. Every lead is a thread to pull, and every detail could be the key to unlocking the truth. If you've been following along so far, you know how devastating Chassidy Sparkman's death was for her family and community. But now, we're going to shift gears a bit and focus on what happened after that fateful night. How law enforcement worked tirelessly to piece together the puzzle and bring those responsible to justice. So grab that coffee or tea again, because this is where things get intense. The Sacramento Police Department didn't waste any time. From the moment they arrived at the scene in the Lake Crest Village parking lot, it was clear this wasn't just another late-night shooting. This was personal. This was targeted. And it left behind a grieving family desperate for answers. Detectives immediately launched a full-scale investigation, combing through evidence, interviewing witnesses, and following every single lead, no matter how small. They knew they were dealing with something complicated here. The victim was a young mother, well loved by her family and community. The suspects, well, that's where things got tricky. Here's the thing about investigations like this. They're not like what you see on TV. It's not always dramatic breakthroughs or aha moments right away. It's painstaking work. Hours spent analyzing surveillance footage, days knocking on doors, weeks chasing down tips that might lead nowhere. But the team didn't give up. They were determined to find out who killed Chassidy Sparkman and why. And then, finally, a break came, but not in Sacramento, not even close. A tip led investigators all the way across the country. To New York City. The New York City. That's right, Isaiah James and Ayanna Burgos weren't hiding out somewhere nearby. They had fled Sacramento entirely, trying to put as much distance between themselves and the crime as possible. But here's the thing about running. No matter how far you go, the law has a way of catching up with you. With the help of the FBI, Sacramento detectives tracked them down step by step. It wasn't easy. These two weren't exactly making it simple for authorities. But eventually, on March 12, 2024, nearly a month after Chassidy's death, they were arrested in New York City. Think about that for a second. 3,000 miles away, and they still couldn't outrun justice. It's a testament to how hard the investigators worked, how dedicated they were to solving this case. Every stone was turned over, every possibility explored. And when they finally caught up with Isaiah and Ayanna, it was a huge moment, not just for the police, but for Chassidy's family too. Finally, there was some sense of relief, some hope that justice might actually be within reach. But let's talk about the challenges here, because this wasn't a straightforward case by any means. First off, the suspects had fled the state altogether. That's not uncommon in cases like this, but it makes the job of law enforcement infinitely harder. They had to coordinate with agencies across the country, rely on federal resources like the FBI, and essentially build a case strong enough to justify extradition back to California. Then there's the emotional toll this took on everyone involved. Not just Chassidy's family, who were waiting day after day for answers, but also the investigators themselves. Solving a murder isn't just about finding the perpetrator. It's about giving closure to the people left behind. And that weight, it's heavy. Now, here's where I want you to weigh in. What do you think about the fact that Isaiah and Ayanna fled all the way to New York? Do you think they thought they could actually escape justice, or were they just buying time? Was this a calculated move, or did they panic and run without thinking? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'll be down there later responding to every single one of them, because honestly, understanding their mindset might help us make sense of what really happened that night. Stick around as we dig deeper into the suspects' backgrounds and explore the tangled web of relationships that may have led to Chassidy's tragic death. All right, let's talk about the people at the center of this tragedy, the suspects. Because when you peel back the layers of this case, it's not just about what happened that night in the parking lot. It's about who was involved and why. And trust me, the more you learn, the more tangled this web becomes. So grab that coffee again, settle in, and let's break it down. First up, Isaiah James, Chassidy's estranged husband. Now, their story wasn't a simple one. It wasn't just boy meets girl. They fall in love and live happily ever after. Far from it, Isaiah and Chassidy had a history, a long, complicated one filled with ups and downs, arguments, and even violence. Remember, this was the same man she once stood by when he went to jail. She wrote him letters, visited him, posted on social media about how much she still cared. But something changed. When Isaiah got out of jail, things didn't go back to the way they were. In fact, they got worse. There was tension, accusations, and even a physical altercation shortly after his release. It's clear their relationship was fractured, maybe beyond repair. But here's the thing. Despite all that, Chassidy agreed to meet him on Valentine's Day. Was it an attempt to reconcile? Was she trying to smooth things over for the sake of their kids? Or was there something else going on? We may never know for sure. And then there's Ayana Burgos, Isaiah's new girlfriend. Let that sink in for a moment. The man shows up to a supposed reconciliation meeting with his estranged wife, the mother of his children, and brings his new girlfriend along. Imagine the audacity. Imagine the tension. Ayana wasn't just a bystander that night. She was present during the shooting. But what was her role? Was she simply there as Isaiah's plus one, or did she play a more active part in what unfolded? Investigators are still piecing that together, but here's where things get interesting. There's speculation, whispers in the community, that Ayana and Chassidy knew each other. Some believe there was bad blood between them, fueled by jealousy or unresolved resentment. Others think Ayana might have been caught in the middle of a toxic dynamic, manipulated by Isaiah into doing something she later regretted. Either way, her presence raises more questions than answers. Now, let's talk about motives, because this is where the story gets murky. Was this a crime of passion? Did unresolved tensions between Chassidy and Isaiah boil over into violence? Or was it something darker, jealousy, revenge, or even premeditated harm? Think about it. Isaiah had just gotten out of jail and Chassidy had moved on with her life. She was building a future for herself and her kids, a future that didn't include him. Could that have been too much for him to handle? And what about Ayana? If the rumors are true, could jealousy over Chassidy have pushed her to act out in a way she never intended? Investigators are working tirelessly to piece together the motive behind this senseless act of violence, but right now, it's still unclear. What we do know is that this wasn't just a random act, it was personal, and that makes it all the more devastating. Here's where I want you to weigh in. What do you think drove Isaiah and Ayana that night? Was it jealousy, revenge, or something more sinister? Do you believe Ayana played a larger role, or was she just caught in the crossfire? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'll be down there later responding to every single one of them. This isn't just a story, it's a puzzle, and your perspective might help us understand it better. Stick around as we dive deeper into the emotional impact this tragedy had on Chassidy's family and the community she left behind. Let's take a moment to talk about the ripple effect of this tragedy, because when someone like Chassidy Sparkman is taken, it doesn't just leave a void in her family, it shakes an entire community. If you've been following along so far, you know how deeply loved Chassidy was by those who knew her. Now, we're going to focus on the emotional toll this crime has taken on her family and the people around her. Grab that coffee again, because this part hits hard. It's raw, it's real, and it's heartbreaking. Chassidy's father, Alfonso Sparkman, summed it up in a way that cut straight to the soul. He described feeling numb, angry, and heartbroken all at once. It hits different when it's your child, he said. And isn't that the truth? Losing anyone is devastating, but losing a child, someone you raised, someone you dreamed for, someone you thought would outlive you, it's a pain no parent should ever have to endure. Alfonso talked about how he used to get constant calls and texts from Chassidy, just checking in or sharing updates about her kids. Now his phone stays silent. That absence, it's deafening. Her sister Nana echoed those sentiments, saying she felt like she was living in a nightmare she couldn't wake up from. How do you process the loss of someone so full of life? Someone who was supposed to be there for birthdays, graduations, and milestones. You don't. Not really. You just try to survive the grief one day at a time. And then there's the community. Because Chassidy wasn't just a daughter, a sister, or a mother. She was a part of something bigger. Dozens of people gathered for candlelight vigils, filling the night with shared tears, whispered prayers, and memories of a woman who touched so many lives. Balloons were released, flowers were laid, and hugs were exchanged as friends neighbors, and even strangers came together to honor her memory. But it didn't stop there. Online fundraisers sprang up almost immediately. GoFundMe pages, Cash App accounts, anything to help support Chassidy's 2 young children left behind. The outpouring of love and support was overwhelming in the best possible way. People donated money, shared stories, and offered whatever they could to ease the burden on a grieving family. It's a testament to the kind of person Chassidy was, that even in death, she brought people together. But through all the grief and the love, there's one thing that keeps coming up: the need for justice. Chassidy's family has been vocal about this, pleading with anyone who might have information to come forward. "We deserve closure," they've said. "We need justice for Chassidy and her children." Think about that for a second. Closure doesn't mean the pain goes away. It means knowing the truth, holding those responsible accountable, and finding some semblance of peace in the chaos. For Alfonso, for Nana, for Chassidy's kids, justice isn't just a legal term. It's a lifeline. It's what keeps them fighting, keeps them hoping, keeps them believing that maybe, just maybe, good can come out of something so senseless. Now, here's where I want you to weigh in. What does justice look like to you in a case like this? Is it about punishment for the perpetrators, or is it about healing for the victim's loved one? Do you think the community response, vigils, fundraisers, calls for accountability, is enough, or is there more we can do to prevent tragedies like this from happening again? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'll be down there later responding to every single one of them. Because honestly, understanding the emotional impact of a crime like this isn't just about honoring Chassidy's memory. It's about figuring out how we move forward as a society. Stick around as we reflect on the broader implications of this case and honor Chassidy's legacy in a way that ensures she's never forgotten. Let's bring this story to a close, but not without taking a moment to reflect on everything we've uncovered. If you've been with me from the beginning, you know this isn't just another crime story. It's a deeply personal tragedy that has left an indelible mark on Chassidy Sparkman's family and everyone who knew her. And even if you're just joining us now, I want you to take a moment to sit with this. Lives can change or be taken in an instant. That's the harsh reality of cases like this. Chassidy's story is a heartbreaking reminder of the devastating consequences of domestic violence. It's not just a statistic or a headline. It's real people, real families, and real pain. Her death didn't happen in a vacuum. It was the result of choices, tensions, and actions that spiraled out of control. And while the investigation continues to piece together the why, one thing is clear. Lives were shattered that night in ways that can never fully be repaired. For Chassidy's children, her siblings, her father, there's no going back to the way things were. There's only moving forward, carrying the weight of her absence while trying to honor her memory. But here's what we can hold on to. Though Chassidy Sparkman is gone too soon, her light hasn't faded. Not really. It lives on in the love she shared with her kids, the dreams she had for their future, and the countless memories she left behind. She was more than a victim. She was a mother, a sister, a daughter, a friend. She was someone who believed in second chances, who forgave quickly, and who gave so much of herself to the people around her. And even in death, her legacy continues to shine through the stories her loved ones tell, the lessons they carry, and the strength they find in each other. Now, here's where you come in. If this story resonated with you, if it made you think, feel, or question how we can prevent tragedies like this, please share it. Share it to raise awareness about domestic violence. Share it to honor Chassidy's memory. Share it to support her family and the countless others who have faced similar losses. Awareness matters. Conversation matters. And your voice matters. So don't hesitate. Hit that share button and let's keep this conversation going. And while you're at it, subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell. We're here to bring you more true crime stories, Stories filled with mystery, suspense, and justice for victims. But also stories that remind us of the humanity behind the headlines. Check out our other videos, join the conversation in the comments below, and let's work together to make a difference. Your thoughts matter, and every perspective adds something valuable to the dialogue. To Chassidy's children and family, our hearts ache for your loss. You are in our thoughts and prayers. May you find strength, comfort, and peace during this incredibly difficult time. Losing someone like Chassidy, a beacon of love, resilience, and hope, is a wound that may never fully heal, but I hope you can take solace in the fact that her life touched so many. She will never be forgotten. For those of you looking for more true crime stories filled with mystery, suspense, and justice for victims, check out our other videos and subscribe today. Together, we can explore these cases, honor the victims, and ensure their stories continue to be told. Until next time, stay safe, and remember, the conversations we have here matter. They can spark change, inspire action, and ensure that victims like Chassidy Sparkman are never forgotten.